Hi, it's me, Luba. I'm a visual artist and a filmmaker based in Amsterdam. Right now, I'm working on experimental documentary series I'm a Tool of Gentrification. And this YouTube channel I dedicate to my artistic research and all information I gather about gentrification I would like to share here with you. It's also for me the way to share my ideas and thoughts about gentrification process because it's not always included in my movies. I use more metaphorical or performative way to talk about my feelings about the gentrification process. Sometimes I transform it into the masks or specific costumes or stage performance which other people stage perform for me. And it's also sometimes in the form of sound or music or hip-hop or dance. Anyway, this YouTube edition, this YouTube episode, I would like to dedicate to the artistic run spaces, an idea of them and how and what we can do with this. So, a bit of personal history. I have experience in club life.
I am the queen of...
Back in the days, I was living in Russia, in Kaliningrad, and I used to be an art director of independent and underground space club Alternativa. And afterwards, I was an art director of art territory Ukrop. And it's really great place. We was really young and bold, and we just ran 100 square meters place and started to organize concert exhibitions and special evenings there. It was a really successful project over this time. I think it's have a real nice spirit and atmosphere there. So as soon as I moved to Amsterdam, of course, the first thing I started to look at is possibility to organize something, because I was still in this loop of a club and art directing and etc. It was possible. I wouldn't say it was easy, but I think it was much more easy than it's now, because I remember in 2011 I was only 1 year in Amsterdam, and then 1 year later we organized a huge show in the Slang, in a squat, in the Spau, so it's in the city center, it's just in the corner of the King Palace. And it was a blast, you know. It was more than 200 people attending. It was a great event. I was really happy. And then we organized some more stuff in Plantage Doklan and other former squats or independent spaces. Then we get our own studio, which we start to use at this meeting point with other artists. So I think the need to organize something external go and fade away a bit. When I think about possibilities right now, it's not much option left. First of all, because as we all know, or you might know, we have really strict laws against the squatting right now, and I think it just will be worse and worse. So, and back in the day, squatting was the only way, and it was a statement, and it was a possibility to claim your right to the city. And now it's very difficult to squat something.
Squatting used to be very prominent in Amsterdam, and I think it's safe to say that squatters have helped to save Amsterdam, because if it weren't for squatters, much of the inner city would have been demolished and would have been replaced by office towers and highways. So by claiming back the city and defending the city, they managed to preserve the city, and the historic city we now all admire, which we think is beautiful. But that's a long time ago, and I think squatting has lost momentum in the Netherlands and in Amsterdam. And indeed, a couple of years ago it's been made illegal. And while we used to have, only a few years ago, quite a few of pretty big squats, nowadays the number of squats is much more limited, and they also tend to be smaller squats. And then I don't know the exact legal status of these squats. I think many of them are still condoned.
And anti-crack. I don't like anti-crack. I mean, it's a great idea, but it's always but.
And then there's anti-crack, which is like a great program. It's a fantastic program. It's a law that says, I'm always proudly saying about it. In Amsterdam, there's a law which says you cannot keep the building empty. And if you have a building and you want to like sell it and you want to like wait for the value of the market value of the building to go up, or you're waiting for the money to renovate it or something, you have to put tenants in there. And there's administrations that take care of it. But the fact is that those administrations are really disrespectful. Like, their work is not to accommodate you. Their work is to use you. It's like really a very unpleasant experience. They don't even reply emails. And there is a lot of empty houses in Amsterdam. So it's also not true that it's not possible to predict how long this building would be. Like, you could really put some work into negotiation with the owners. If anyone cares about it, it could be done better.
So then the third option, which is I think only one left, is Broodplaats, creative cluster. It's not so cheap, first of all. And the second of all, it has its own rules and a structure which you need to fit in. And it's not always the case. It's not always that your idea will fit perfectly into this Broodplaat.
Building up a community in a top-down initiative, in a top-down building, like which was organized in a top-down way, is very difficult because people are they didn't enter through the gate themselves, right? The gate was already opened for them. So I think one of the powers of squatting a building or taking a building or doing initiative is that you do it on your own, with your own willpower. So it's your own initiative. It's not something that has been organized for you or has been built for you. You're going to build it yourself. That's basically the first, I think, the essential step in this. Like, you need to do something by yourself, together with other people. So you need to have a big dream, and also you need to have a kind of political idea with it. Like, it needs to, I don't know, it's a certain kind of like core feeling of necessity. Like, it's necessary. You need it, but also other people need it, and that's why with that you can fight for something.
So what we're left with? We're left with the commercial housing, we're left with the commercial spaces, which is quite expensive. You can negotiate with the owner. I'm pretty sure if your idea is great, maybe you can get a small discount, but also it wouldn't change dramatically the situation. I know that in some cities like New York or London, people still go for it. They just split the rent and everybody chip in and they go for it.
Yeah, not only artists were coming to find out, because we, especially in order to pay the rent, because it was a private space in the end, we were organizing a lot of different activities. So there was also business dinners sometimes, or there were movie crew coming to shoot part of their movies, or yeah, we were trying to keep everything cultural, but we were fishing in a lot of different pots, also a lot of theater, for instance. Therefore, by building an audience after 1 year and a half, in the moment there was an exhibition or there was an event, we didn't have only artists coming or this local Amsterdam community, but also people from the neighborhood or people belonging to different scene in Amsterdam were coming by, and it was really beautiful. It was really a living room, and it was a perfect mix of all these different cultural activities, going from theater to art to dancing to music, and at the same time having workshop, and at the same time having studios artists and having a community over there of people helping each other. So yeah, it was really beautiful.
I don't see things like that happening in Amsterdam, and in my idea, in my understanding why, is because Amsterdam and Netherlands still have a great legacy of art funding. It used to be the golden times when you graduate from art school and you got like grant and you get a studio and you was all set up, you can just make art and enjoy life. It's not the case anymore. it is some funding. I would say that it is some funds, and but demand is much higher that the funds can offer. This is the first thing. And the second thing, most of the time funds covering the art production, which is not always the case, because I was sponsored for 3 episodes and 2 more need to go, and I'm looking for funding. Here I am. But anyway, this funds is not covering always the space. And I think space is quite an essential thing. And because in a space, when people physically meet, the things are happening. So this YouTube episode, I would like to talk about the spaces and how we feel about the space, how we appropriate spaces, and yeah, what we do with the space. So like you will see some compilations from previous episodes and also some parts of interviews which didn't make it into the series, which I found extremely interesting and informative. So enjoy!
I think lots of spaces in the north are just bars that have a cultural way of feeling, but maybe don't do a lot of culture. Sometimes I'm sort of disappointed by how little actually happens here. But that's from my point of view, so I don't want to be a snob. We also talked to the cultural department for the north, and they're like, yeah, you have lots of things happening, but like, I think we do most concerts of any space in the north, which is crazy because we're 2 people. It doesn't even make any sense. I like the fact that there are some really underground spaces. For instance, yeah. Why? Which ones? Well, you have smaller places like the Roze Tanker and doing the really underground stuff. That's important, and some squats. Aside from that, I don't know.
Art in these days is also a difficult thing because it's, and the role it has in this, like in the society or in the maatschappij, nu in de samenleving, it's kind of like, it's unclear. Everything, it needs to, if it's not related to money, it's basically not seen by a lot of people.
The idea behind systems like Broedplaats is a good idea. It is also necessary, but that idea has to adapt to the reality, and it's not. I think it's not adapting fast enough because the reality is changing so fast. 5 years ago, you could do 2 years in the Broedplaats and then go out and at least find somewhere where you could pay 500 euros for a decent shared apartment with your partner or a group of friends. But those conditions have changed. It's so much more difficult now, especially for young, starting out foreign artists. We have so few alternatives. So these systems, if they really want to contribute to the arts and culture scene of Amsterdam and help out younger artists, then they need to pick up their pace. They need to adapt fast enough, and they need to expand, and they need to also try to have a little bit of understanding for and empathy that these are not just people who need some sort of fish box place to live. They need to have a home. They need to have ground under their feet in order to actually function well enough as artists. If they're always going to have to fight for the next place and the next place to live, eventually you grow tired and you leave. Yeah. So we need more sustainable, long-term options.
I'm very pessimistic, yeah, because I think as artists you can't, you have no influence at all, and we can't stop the prices going up, and we can stop that they try to. In Amsterdam there's a Loods 6, which is near the harbor. You know it? And now the woningbouwvereniging, I don't know the English term, tries to sell it and make a lot of money of it. And even the woningbouwvereniging is commercial. So we have. It would be very good if we can defend these places.
I mean, one of the things that surprised me a bit, to be honest, is the economical thinking of artists. If I'm an artist and I'm offered a temporary atelier or living space, living and working space in an area that really is having trouble, and crime-wise, otherwise, and I'm asked to come there to actually help to gentrificate that part of the city, I would be a bit more long-term thinking and would say, okay, I'm be willing to play that role, but if you give me a space, actually I want to own it. I don't want to be a low renter. I own it, I develop it, and then I can stay there. Or if I cannot own it and you give me a low rent, I also want a percentage of what you're going to earn with it after my role has been played out. And that is something that in for me, an idealistic world, not only a city council or a developer would have to be honest enough to say, I'm using you, but I will pay you a percentage of the profit afterwards. But also the artist should demand this. He or she should say, or a collective should say, okay, give us the building, we're going to create something great, we're going to create something for the environment, with the neighborhood, with the people living and working there. It's not our personal role, because we are artists, we're not per se, I don't know, social activists or whatever, but we're willing to play that role, but there are conditions. And we have to be part of the development too. So if you give us the Lely, we have to promise us that at least half of that, or 1/3 or whatever, will stay for this role for a low rent, or that actually we become owners of our own ateliers or our own atelier woningen.
Thank you for watching, and if you like my project, please support me on Patreon. You can find the link in the information under the video. Also, you can support me by buying one of my sweaters or t-shirts as my different editions, like Sexy Edition, Yokai Edition, it's also Gentrification Edition. You also just can send me some cash, I will appreciate it highly. Also, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I have a special group called I'm a Tool of Gentrification in Facebook, where I share interesting articles, my thoughts and ideas, so you can be constantly updated. Yeah, thanks for watching, thanks for following me. If you like it, please subscribe and we will keep in touch. Have a great day. Ciao, ciao.